She said she wasn't looking for trouble, but I've never seen trouble look so beautiful. I met her on a Tuesday evening that felt quieter than it should have been. The kind of quiet that makes you aware of your breathing, the ticking of a clock somewhere behind you, the faint hum of something unresolved in the air. She was standing by the counter, fingers grazing the edge of a coffee cup like she was tracing a thought she couldn't say out loud. Her name was Evelyn. Mid-40s, maybe? Graceful in the kind of way that didn't ask to be noticed but made everything else fade when she walked into a room. I was 24, still trying to look like I belonged anywhere. We spoke because of the rain. It started coming down hard, thick drops against the window. She smiled without looking up and said, "Guess we're trapped here for a while." The way she said it, calm, resigned, but with the smallest tremor of amusement, made something in me want to keep her company, even if silence was all she offered. I laughed softly. Could be worse places to be trapped. That made her glance at me. Not a full look, just her eyes shifting up, holding for half a second longer than politeness allowed. There was something unspoken there, something like curiosity, or warning. She turned back to her cup. "You're too young to say things like that," she murmured. "Too young to notice you're beautiful?" I said it before I could stop myself, before I could dress the thought in safer words. She didn't smile. She didn't frown either. Just breathed in, as if deciding what to do with the air between us. "Careful," she said. "That kind of talk gets people in trouble." I wanted to ask what kind, but I didn't. I just watched her fingers trace the rim of her cup again, slow, deliberate, like she was aware I was watching, and pretending she wasn't. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The cafe lights were low, the windows fogged, and the smell of coffee mixed with rain-soaked air. I could hear her breathing, shallow, steady, and the faint click of her ring against the cup. She wasn't wearing makeup, not really. Just that natural tiredness people get when they've lived long enough to stop pretending everything's fine. "You're staring," she said quietly. "Sorry," I whispered. "I didn't mean to." "Yes, you did." Her tone wasn't sharp, it was soft, knowing. She looked up again, and this time, I didn't look away. Her eyes held mine, testing how much truth I could stand to show. There was a kind of electricity between us, quiet, unannounced, but there. The kind that makes the world slow down without asking permission. I felt it in my throat, my fingertips, the back of my neck. She broke eye contact first. "You should go before the rain stops." "Why?" I asked. "Because once it does," she said, taking a sip, "you'll think staying was a choice." Her voice was calm, but her hand trembled when she set the cup down. That small detail, the slight shake, felt louder than anything else. I wanted to ask if she was okay, if she wanted me to stay, but the words stayed stuck somewhere behind my teeth. The rain outside softened, almost on cue. She looked toward the window, then back at me, as if she'd heard the same thought I was about to say. And then, before I could move, the bell above the cafe door chimed. Someone else walked in, breaking the moment, scattering it like dust. She exhaled, barely smiling. "Looks like your cue," she said. But the way her eyes lingered as I stood, that wasn't dismissal. That was an unfinished sentence. And I knew, walking out into the wet street, that whatever trouble she warned me about, I was already in it. Variant, standard, title, Part 2, expanding the conflict, Trouble learns my name. ID, 64821. It had been 3 days since the rain. 3 days since that look, the one that felt like a secret neither of us meant to share. I told myself I wouldn't go back. That I'd find another cafe, another quiet place. But by Friday evening, I was standing in front of the same window again, pretending I was just passing by. She was there, same corner seat, same cup of coffee cooling faster than she drank it. She looked up, saw me, and for a second, there was something between us that felt like recognition and resignation. "You again," she said, though her voice softened halfway through. "Couldn't let the rain have the last word." She smiled, small, hesitant. "Persistent. That's dangerous." I've been told. When I sat across from her, she didn't object. Just stirred her coffee, slow circles that went nowhere. I noticed the faint line where her wedding ring used to be, pale skin that hadn't seen light in a while. She caught me looking and didn't hide it. Divorced? She said simply. A long time ago. I nodded. You seem fine. Fine is what people say when they don't want to talk about it. She looked at me then, really looked. What about you? Single, I said. Mostly by accident. That made her laugh. It wasn't a loud laugh, more like a sound she'd forgotten she could make. It filled the space between us, softening the air. We talked, not about anything important. Books, bad coffee, small regrets. But the pauses mattered more than the words. Every time her hand brushed the table near mine, I felt it. Every time she leaned forward to hear me, her perfume, light, clean, something like rain on wood, made it impossible to focus on what I was saying. At one point our hands touched. Just a second, a collision of skin and intention. I didn't move, and neither did she. Her fingers stayed there, relaxed, but her eyes looked down. She pulled back first, clearing her throat. You shouldn't, she said quietly. Shouldn't what? Look at me like that. I'm not sure I can help it. Her lips parted slightly, as if to say something else, but she just exhaled instead. You're too young to mean that. And you're too careful to believe it, I said. The silence after that felt charged, not uncomfortable, just heavy with things better left unspoken. She picked up her bag, hesitating before standing. I wasn't looking for company, she said. I know, I replied, standing too. But you didn't send me away. That stopped her. She glanced at me again, the corner of her mouth curving, not quite a smile, not quite a warning. Then she reached out, almost without thinking, and brushed an invisible speck off my shoulder. Her hand lingered there, just long enough for me to feel the warmth of her palm through my shirt. Good night, she whispered. Her fingers slipped away, but the heat stayed, a quiet, stubborn pulse I couldn't shake. As she walked out into the night, she didn't look back. But when I caught her reflection in the window, just for a heartbeat, she was smiling. Variant, standard, title, Part 3, Heightening Suspense, The Space Between Us. ID, 18830. The next time I saw her, it wasn't planned. It never was. She walked into the cafe mid-afternoon, no rain this time, no reason for it, and paused when she saw me already there. For a heartbeat, she looked like she might leave. Then she didn't. You again, she said, same words as before, but quieter. Like she'd rehearsed them. Guess I'm becoming a bad habit, I said. She took the seat across from me. Her blouse was slightly undone at the collar, her hair pinned up carelessly, as if she'd gotten caught between rushing and changing her mind. She set her phone down but kept her hand close to it, a lifeline to the outside world she didn't want to use. We talked about nothing, work, books, the noise outside, but there was an edge to every word. When she leaned forward, her hand brushed mine again, this time longer, deliberate. I could feel the warmth of her skin even after she pulled back. Her phone buzzed. Once. Then again. She didn't answer. Finally, she sighed, turned the screen face down, and said, That's my sister. She thinks I should start seeing people again. I raised an eyebrow. Are you? She smiled faintly. I think I already am. That's the problem. Her honesty caught me off guard. For a second, the air felt too tight between us. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words tangled. Instead, I reached for my cup at the same moment she reached for hers. Our fingers brushed again. This time, neither of us moved. Evelyn, I began. Don't, she whispered, eyes darting to the window. Someone might. The door opened. A man walked in, middle-aged, familiar somehow. Her shoulders stiffened instantly. He waved at her, smiling like he knew her well. Colleague, she muttered, low enough for only me to hear. Don't say anything. I nodded, trying to look casual while my pulse thundered in my ears. The man ordered his drink, turned toward us briefly, then back again. Evelyn's hand was trembling slightly against her cup, and without thinking, I covered it with mine under the table. She didn't pull away. When the man left, she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for minutes. I didn't move my hand, and she didn't ask me to. Her thumb brushed against my wrist, once soft and uncertain. "This is ridiculous," she said finally. "Probably." Her eyes met mine, steady but fragile. "You don't know what people would say." "Then don't tell them," I said, barely above a whisper. She laughed once, breathless, shaky. "You make it sound easy." "It's not," I admitted. "But I don't think we're here because it's easy." The world around us faded, the noise, the clinking cups, the distant traffic. Just her hand under mine, her breath close enough to feel. For a second, I thought she'd lean in. I felt it, that gravity between two people who've both already crossed the line in their minds. But instead, she stood, her chair scraping softly against the floor. "I should go," she said, voice unsteady. "Evelyn." She turned, eyes shining with something she wouldn't name. "Don't follow me." She left before I could answer. The door closed softly behind her, but the space between us stayed electric, alive, impossible to undo. Variant, standard, title, Part 4, nearing the climax, almost. ID, 97256. She stopped coming to the cafe. A week passed, then 2. I told myself I didn't care, that it had been a mistake, that she'd done the sensible thing. But late one night, when I saw her name flash across my phone, everything I'd been pretending to forget unraveled. "Are you awake?" Just 3 words. No punctuation, no explanation. 5 minutes later, I was outside her building, rain starting to fall again like the night we met. I didn't even knock, just stood there, hands in my pockets, until the door opened. She looked different. Tired. Beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Her hair was down this time, her sweater loose, sleeves falling over her hands. She didn't ask why I was there, didn't need to. "I shouldn't have texted," she said softly. "I just..." Her voice broke. She looked away, as if ashamed of needing anyone at all. "I'm glad you did," I said. For a long moment she didn't move. Then she stepped aside and let me in. The apartment smelled like rain and something faintly floral, a scent I already knew too well. Everything was neat but lived in, like a life she'd been trying to keep under control. We stood in the kitchen, saying nothing. The clock ticked. Her breathing was uneven. "I've been trying to forget you," she said finally, her voice shaking now. "You make me feel like I'm doing something wrong." "Maybe we both are," I said. She looked at me then, really looked, and whatever restraint she'd been holding cracked. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "I know." "Then why did you come?" I stepped closer, close enough to see the reflection of the kitchen light in her eyes. "Because you asked?" That was the moment everything changed. She didn't back away. Her hand brushed mine, tentative, trembling, and stayed there. The air felt too thick to breathe. I could smell her shampoo, see the faint line of her collarbone, the small rise and fall of her chest with every uneven breath. "Evelyn," I whispered, her name heavy in my throat. "Tell me to go." She didn't. Instead, she reached up, slow, hesitant, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. My hand found her wrist without thinking, fingers sliding lightly along her skin. Her pulse fluttered beneath them. Her lips parted, a small sound escaping, not a word, just air, but it felt louder than everything else. Her forehead nearly touched mine. We weren't kissing. Not yet. But it felt like standing on the edge of something we couldn't step back from. Then her phone buzzed, sharp, sudden, cruelly timed. She flinched, pulling back like waking from a dream. The screen lit up on the counter, a name. Michael. She grabbed it, silenced it without answering, then looked at me, torn, breathless. "I can't," she said, shaking her head, but her voice didn't sound sure. I took a step back. I know. She swallowed, blinking hard, then whispered, "You should leave, before I don't want you to." But as I reached for the door, she touched my sleeve, not to stop me, just enough to keep me suspended there, between leaving and what might have happened if I didn't. The next morning, she didn't answer my calls. Not that I expected her to, not after the look on her face when she silenced that phone, when she whispered, "You should leave." Still, I couldn't stay away. By evening, I found myself outside the cafe again. It was nearly empty. The lights inside glowed warm against the gray dusk. I stepped in, heart heavy with things I hadn't said. She was there. Alone. Her hair tied up, eyes hidden behind tired restraint. She looked at me like someone who just remembered a dream they weren't supposed to have. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "You said that last time," I replied quietly. "It didn't work then either." Her jaw tightened. She stared at her cup. "You don't understand." "Then tell me." She hesitated, a small, trembling pause, and finally set the cup down. "That man from the cafe, the one you saw before. Michael." Her voice caught on his name. "He wasn't just a colleague." I froze. "He's the one who called you that night." She nodded once. "We were something. A long time ago. He still thinks we could be again." The words felt like a slow punch to the ch, variant, standard, title, Part 6, the climax, the line between us. ID, 71908. The next day, she called me. No message, no preamble, just my phone lighting up with her name. "Come over," she said. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the strain beneath it. "We need to talk." By the time I reached her apartment, dusk had turned the city into silhouettes. Her lights were low, one lamp glowing in the corner, shadows stretched across the floor. She stood by the window, arms crossed, staring out at nothing. "He saw us," she said without turning around. "Michael. He came by earlier." Her tone was calm, too calm. Like someone holding glass they know will break if they grip too tightly. "What did he say?" I asked. "That I should be careful. That people talk." She turned then, eyes tired but burning. "He wasn't wrong." I stepped closer. "Does it matter what they say?" "It shouldn't," she whispered. "But it does." Her hands trembled at her sides. "You're young. You'll move on. I don't have that luxury." "I'm not moving on," I said. "Not from this." She laughed quietly, but it wasn't amusement, it was disbelief. "You think this is some story that ends with a neat bow? You think we get to have this and walk away clean?" "No," I said, taking another step. "I think we get to be honest." She looked at me then, something breaking in her expression, that mix of fear and longing I'd seen before, sharper now. "And what's your honesty, then? That you want me?" "That I already do." She inhaled sharply, and suddenly the space between us wasn't safe anymore. I could feel her pulse in the air, the scent of rain still in her hair, the faint tremor in her breath as I moved closer. She didn't step back this time. Not even when my hand brushed hers. Her eyes flickered down, then up again, meeting mine. "If I let this happen," she whispered, "I can't take it back." "Maybe you're not supposed to," I said. She closed her eyes. My hand rose instinctively, fingers tracing the line of her jaw, the curve of her neck, the soft tremor where she was holding herself still. She leaned into the touch, barely, just enough for me to feel her warmth. For a long moment, no one moved. The world outside had gone silent. Her breath came shallow, uneven. I could taste the question between us, the one neither of us wanted to answer. "Tell me this isn't real," I said. She opened her eyes, voice breaking. "I can't." That was it. The dam between us shattered, not with words, but with closeness. She stepped forward, her forehead against mine, hands trembling against my chest. Everything we'd been avoiding was there in that single breath, the ache, the pull, the impossible timing. But then she stopped, Inches away, eyes wet, breath shaking against my lips. If we cross this line, she whispered, we don't go back. I swallowed hard. Then let's not. The clock ticked once, loud, final. And in that breath before everything changed, we both understood, whatever happened next, there would be no pretending it hadn't. Morning came soft and gray, like the world was trying not to wake us too suddenly. The rain had stopped hours ago, but its scent still clung to the air, faint, clean, familiar. She stood by the window again, her hair loose around her shoulders, a cup of coffee in her hands. I watched her quietly, unsure if I was allowed to speak first. Last night hadn't been a perfect ending, it hadn't even been an ending. Just two people crossing a line they'd both been afraid to name. When she finally turned, there was no regret in her face, only that fragile calm that follows honesty. You stayed, she said softly. I didn't want to leave, I replied. She smiled a little, the kind of smile that carries both relief and warning. You realize what this means, don't you? Yeah, I said, stepping closer. Then I'm exactly where I want to be. She laughed quietly, shaking her head. You still say things like that too easily. Maybe. But I mean them. For a moment, we just looked at each other, no more pretending not to feel, no more distance disguised as protection. I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. She closed her eyes, leaning ever so slightly into my touch. I've spent years avoiding this, she said. Avoiding anything that might hurt again. And now? I asked. No, she whispered, opening her eyes. I'm tired of being careful. I took her hand, fingers intertwining. Her skin was warm, steady. We didn't need to say more. Whatever rules we'd broken, whatever sense we'd lost, it didn't matter in that quiet morning light. We sat together on the couch, shoulders touching, her head resting lightly against mine. The city outside began to move again, cars, voices, life, but it felt distant. Here, in this small apartment, everything slowed to a heartbeat. I don't know where this goes, she said after a while. Neither do I admitted. But I think that's what makes it real. She looked up, eyes soft but sure. You really don't care what they'll say? I smiled. They weren't there when you looked at me like that. That made her laugh, a quiet, genuine sound that felt like sunlight after too many cloudy days. She placed her hand on my chest, feeling the rhythm beneath. Your trouble, she murmured, echoing our first meeting. Yeah, I said, lacing my fingers through hers. But you're the one who let me in. Her head rested against my shoulder again, and for the first time, there was no tension in the silence between us. Just warmth, and something that felt like peace. Outside, the rain began again, gentle this time, a whisper instead of a storm. She smiled at the sound, and I knew that whatever came next, we'd already chosen it. A long breath, a shared glance, and then, her hand tightening slightly around mine. Together, quietly, we stayed there. Not running. Not hiding. Just being.